my channel, or welcome back. My name is Ashlyn. I'm a military wife living in Italy with my husband. We are stationed at Aviano Air Base. Thank you so much for clicking on this video, and if you did, that probably means that you were either moving overseas or you're just curious about this whole process. If you're moving overseas, congrats. I know that a lot of people join the military to travel and to see the world, and so if you are, then now is your chance to do so. Today I'm going to be sharing a few tips and things to keep in mind before you move overseas. I wanted to make a video kind of like help show y'all what to expect and kind of like things that I wish I would have been told before I moved. And a lot of this is also subjective too. This is just my opinion. You're probably gonna hear from a bunch of different people different things from what I say, which is totally fine. Like, do whatever you want, but this is just from my opinion, things that I wish that I would have known, or tips that I wish I would have heard before we decide to move over here. And also, with that being said, I'm doing this video as like a broad overseas video. Right now we live in Italy, and I do in the future want to make a video specific to this base on like things I wish before moving to this base or to Italy. But for this video, I'm just going to do a broad one. So whether you're living in Japan, Germany, Korea. With that being said, I hope that y'all enjoy this video. If you like my content, please subscribe. I post twice a week. So let's start with those 10 tips that I have for moving overseas in the military. So my first tip is to bring a lot of stuff with you. And so this is gonna be very subjective for everybody, but I remember when we were moving, if I didn't want something, I was just like, oh, like, you know, give it away or sell it. And that also came down to like things that were circumstantial. Back at our old house in Omaha, we had like a patio area where we like had our own table. It was like a 4-chair table, but it was glass, and then you could put an umbrella in it. And we got it on sale at Walmart off season for like 70 bucks, and we honestly should have kept it. But at the time we were like, well, in Italy the houses are smaller, we're probably gonna be in an apartment, we don't know what like we're doing yet, so we're like, just give it away. So we just gave it away to a friend. But now that I look back, and now that Jordan looks back, which Jordan's my husband if you're new here, we regret getting rid of that because our yard is probably tripled, quadrupled the size that it was at our previous base. So having that table here would have been so nice. Looking back now, I'm like, man, like we should have just brought it, because the whole reason we didn't bring it was because we were like, oh, we're not gonna need it. Like, we don't know if our yard's gonna be big enough or not. And honestly, if we would have gotten an apartment, when they brought our stuff here, we could have easily just sold it. I just wish that we would have kept it. And that kind of goes along with just a few things, with like a few kitchen utensils, because moving overseas, obviously the plugs for the walls are going to be different, so a lot of your appliances are going to have different plugs. And when I first got here, I really wanted a crock pot. I use my crock pot a lot, and we had gotten rid of the crock pot that we had at our previous base because it was a US plug. And when I got here, I was like, you know what, I'll just get a crock pot that's like the European plug. I had the hardest time finding a crock pot. I looked for like 2 months because apparently here in Italy they don't like to use crock pots. I went to so many different stores to look for crock pots. I was like seriously stressed out. I was like, I just want a crock pot so bad. And anytime anyone had posted a crock pot on the sell page that had European plugs, it would go within like 5 minutes of it being posted, because they're just a hot commodity around here. Like, everyone's trying to get a crock pot, and the crock pots on base sell so fast. So looking back now, I'm like, man, I should have kept my crock pot. So it's just things like that. If you are moving and you're like, man, should we keep it or should we get rid of it? Like, you're kind of on the fence and it's circumstantial, just keep it, in my opinion. And if you get here and you don't use it, then you can sell it and you'll get money for it. So my next one is save money. And when I mean save money, I'm not like saying this and just being like, oh, it's because Jordan and I spend a lot of money. No, you need to save money. I don't know if it's just because we came to Italy and like that's just kind of how it is here. Whenever Jordan and I first were told that when we were moving here, we kind of like disregarded it because it's just my husband and I and our dog, which our dog was very expensive. I'll get to that in a second. But we just kind of were like, like we don't have kids, like we don't have that much stuff. We're not really high maintenance people. We were like, man, we're gonna sell all this stuff. We're going to, you know, sell all the stuff that we have. We're gonna sell this truck and we're gonna have money to carry us over here. And when I tell you, that was not the smart thing to do. Right as you get orders, I would highly suggest saving as much as you can every month, and just keeping in mind that the military makes it seem like they pay for all of this stuff, but they really don't pay for a lot of it. It's like hidden in the back that they just don't tell you about. For an example, like when Jordan got here, my husband and I, he came here first. We did not have our car yet. We shipped our Jeep over here, but then he sold his truck. He didn't have the Jeep yet, and he had to pay for a rental car. And the military does not pay for your rental car. Some people have a rental car for weeks, some people have it for days, some people have it for months, and you have to pay all of it out of pocket, and it gets really expensive. Also, another thing, like I said, was the plugs. Jordan and I underestimated how much we got rid of before we came here. So we were like, crap, now we have to buy all of these things with the European plug, and now we're having to spend all this money to buy these new stuff. Also, you have to put down your first month's rent for most places, and you have to put down a security deposit, and if you use a realtor, you have to pay the realtor fee. So there's a lot of things that come into mind with that. And also, if you're selling your car before you come here, then you're gonna have to buy a new car. In my opinion, it's very easy to find a car here that is cheap because people are always getting rid of their cars. But at the same time, like if you want a car that's not manual or a little bit nicer, that's gonna last you a little bit longer, it is gonna be more expensive. Those little things add up to a lot of money. And if you have a pet, that is a super expensive thing. I want to make a video about shipping my pet over here too, because that was terrible. That cost us around $3,000 to ship our pet here. I believe the government just passed a thing where like you can get an allowance for bringing your pets overseas, but I'm not too sure if that's fully passed yet. I believe coming over here we spent around $8,000 and we didn't get reimbursed for any of that. So obviously the military is going to pay for a bunch of other things, but there's also a few things that they're not going to tell you to keep in mind. Once you first get your orders, start saving money ASAP. My next tip is to do everything early, which I feel like is kind of a gimme. Like everyone's gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this early. But like I said, when you first get even your soft orders where you don't have hard orders, start thinking in your mind, like, when am I gonna do this? Like, when am I gonna do this? Do I have time to do this? Do I need to take off work to go do this? Like, it is honestly so important. For y'all who have been here and following for a while, you know that my visa and passport got messed up by the Italian government, and that took forever. We didn't apply for my passport and visa too late, but even if we would have applied a little bit earlier, it could have like kept everything from just happening the way that it did. So just get everything done in advance. The service member is going to do like 90% of the work. They're the ones that are going to be doing the out processing and processing stuff. Before you leave, there's going to be so much stuff that you have to do. I think the main ones are passport and visa. Like, I think in my personal opinion, that is the one that you're going to want to get done ASAP, because without a passport or visa, you can't come over here. Anytime like you read something and it says you have to get this list done, just think, how can I get this list done sooner? Because you know the military, they're going to tell you to hurry up, and then they're going to tell you to wait. And then they're going to do something wrong and they're going to blame it on you. That's just how it goes. So if you have something to do, get it done early. It'll just save you so much stress and time. My next tip is to be prepared for the worst that can happen, which honestly is a mentality that I should have gone into. And it's not like a mentality that I want y'all to be in like the whole time. Like, I don't want you to be like, oh my gosh, we're moving, this is going to be an absolute terrible experience, because I've met so many people that have had great experiences moving overseas. And I wish I would have just gone in with that mindset of this isn't going to go well, because for a while we had done everything on time and we had done all this stuff that was like, we did our part. But when it came to the government's part and the Italian government's part, they did not do their part, and they kind of failed us in a way. So you just have to kind of go in thinking, yeah, I'm gonna do everything right on my terms, but at the same time, they could mess it up. Which I also don't want to scare anybody. Like, I don't want y'all to see this video and be like, oh my gosh, something's gonna get messed up for me. Because like I said, a lot more times, like, you have a higher percentage of your stuff going smoothly and coming over here than it getting like messed up. So just keep that in mind, that something is probably gonna go wrong and it's probably not gonna be your fault, and that's okay. My next tip is kind of something that I had said earlier, was get your passports and visas ASAP. Also, I highly suggest that if you don't have a tourist passport, so this is where I got confused, so bear with me. When you move overseas, the military is going to give you a passport specifically for the country that you're going to and for moving. So kind of like once you get your passport and you move over here, I'm not going to be able to use that passport ever again unless I'm going back to the States. So like, let's say I'm over here and something terrible happened and I have to go back home, but I don't have my tourist passport yet, which is like the passport that everybody has, like the normal one. I don't have to have a tourist passport to go back to the States. So I could use it to go back from Italy into the US, but like if I want to go on a trip to Germany, I can't take that passport that the military gives me. So if you're wanting to actually travel when you get to your overseas base, you're gonna have to purchase a tourist passport. If you have your like tourist passport before you move and you need to get it renewed, go ahead and get it renewed. If you don't have one and you have a while before you move, go ahead and apply for one, because trust me, it's just going to be so much easier. Like if I had my tourist passport before we moved, I could have saved myself a huge headache, because I could have came to Italy and just waited for my visa, but I didn't have my tourist passport, so I had to stay back home. Obviously, if they give you a 2-month or 3-month advance to move, like don't do that. But if you have like a whole year or at least 6 months, I think that that's like a good time to get your passport. It also depends like what's happening, because I know recently in the US passports are like being delayed by a long time. So this one I haven't really heard people talk about. Bring extra over-the-counter medicines if you can. I take a few over-the-counter medications. I take like Prilosec, and then obviously like Advil and Tylenol. And then I also take like over-the-counter medicine for my stomach. Typically you'll move out of your house that you're previously at, and then you will get moved over here and you will go to a hotel. Every country, I believe, has their own different like laws and stuff when it comes to medicine. In Italy, at least, it is so different. Like you can go buy Advil and Tylenol over the counter, but it is a lot different and weirder. I've had the hardest time finding Tylenol and Advil in a pill form. I have found, I believe, Advil, but it's in a powder, and like the way they do it, like kind of like take a shot kind of. Yes, the base does have it, the BX has it, the commissary has like American over-the-counter stuff, but we live about 20 to 25 minutes away from base. So when I first got here, I was like, man, now I'm gonna have to go to the base, get medicine, come back. And it also depends if the BX and commissary is open, because you don't want to get here and then immediately be like, oh, I need over-the-counter Claritin, or I need over-the-counter Prilosec or Advil or Tylenol, and then not be open. And then you're like, crap, like the Italian stores don't have it, so what am I gonna do now? Don't overpack a lot, but I would just bring like an extra case or something, just in case like you find yourself not being able to get on the base or something. So another one that I have is to find content creators or social media friends to fall on. Let's say you're moving to Aviano and you need advice or help with this. Like I will gladly message you back and help you. And I know there's a few content creators over here that will do the same. And I know there's like content creators in Japan, in England, and all these other places. Just find a content creator that you like and can get comfortable with, so that let's say something does happen and you need help, you can feel comfortable to reach out to somebody that's not like your husband's like command or first shirt. Service member will get a sponsor, but there are some good sponsors and there's not some good sponsors that don't do their job very well. Go on social media, find other military wives or other military spouses or whoever that are living at the base that you're going to. And it's also nice to have someone to lean on once you get here if you need extra help. I am always available if you want to DM me. I will link my Instagram down below, my Facebook, so that if you do have questions or you need help when you're here, just find somebody that you can lean on to kind of be your sponsor before that you move here. So my next one is to learn the language soon. Try to learn just a little bit before you come here. First of all, the locals are gonna appreciate it. Right now, I'm actually doing Duolingo. I was doing Babbel for a little bit, but Duolingo is free. It's free up to a certain extent. You can pay for like the subscription and stuff, but Duolingo is free, and it is an amazing app that you honestly should try before coming here. It is super easy to learn stuff. This is not sponsored, by the way, but it is super easy to learn stuff, and I feel like I've learned a lot. Just like a few minutes a day will honestly improve your vocabulary and learning the language so much better, because you could easily come over here not knowing anything like me and learn super fast, but it's going to be very intimidating and very like, ooh, like it just feels kind of uncomfortable not knowing like any of the language. Near the base, a lot of people will speak English. Also, if you go to touristy cities, like when we go to Venice and Milan, most people do speak English, especially in Venice. almost everybody speaks English because it is so touristy and people from America come here all the time. Just learning a little bit day by day honestly is going to help you tremendously if you're moving where they don't speak English. So my next one is to keep receipts and records of almost anything you do while moving over here. So like, let's say you kind of go through the same thing that I did with my passport and visa. A lot of times I went and I complained to somebody, or I had to redo this whole process. They would almost every time ask me, well, when did you apply for it back in April? When did you receive whatever back in April? When did you get the call saying that it wasn't like correct? And I eventually kept a log of when everything was, but at first I was like, well, I don't know, that was just back in April or May, and it didn't help me any to not record what days I got it, who I heard it from, all that stuff. Also, a lot of times when you're traveling, if you have to eat fast food or if you have to do certain things, the military will reimburse you for that, but you have to keep receipts. So like, let's say my husband was traveling over here and he had to have McDonald's because that's the only place he could eat at. A lot of times I feel like people miss out on a lot of money that they could have gotten reimbursed back because they didn't keep receipts, digital receipts and physical receipts. I would do that. And also, like I said, the day you get your passport, log that down. Once you get your passport, take a picture of it. Take a picture of everything. Like, I'm not joking. Take a picture of all the receipts. Take a picture of your passport. If something does fail, you have a picture of it on your phone and you have like a footprint that you can go back on. And so my last tip is to get a little acquainted with the culture before you come here. I've never really had culture shock until coming here. If you just kind of learn the culture and how people do things before you come here, you're not going to get, like, I don't want to say disappointed, but you're not going to get as like, oh, that's how things are here. And I think that was my first thing of culture shock, was when my passport and visa got messed up. Like I said, it was the Italian government. Anytime I called them, they were super rude to me. They hung up, and I'm not saying that all Italians or all of the Italian government is like this. Another thing is like, that was very shocking to me, is staring and pointing. So if you stare at one and point at someone in the US, they're going to post up at you and they're gonna be like, why are you staring? Why are you pointing at me? But here in Italy, or it might be a whole European thing actually, people will stare at you just like this, and like, no biggie, like they're just gonna be staring at you. And that's just the culture here. They don't really see staring as like a rude thing or as a weird thing. Like, they just will stare at you and you just kind of have to deal with it at first. When I first moved here, I was like, oh my gosh, why is everybody staring at me? Like, that's weird. Like, do I have something on my face? But nope, that's just the culture here. Like, another thing that was a culture shock to me was today's weather. It's 66 and it's almost May, and you will still see people here wearing coats, gloves, hats, everything. Like, they act like it's like 30 degrees here, which is something that I did not expect, because my husband and I will go out in like t-shirts and shorts at this weather where it's like almost 70 degrees. And like I said, people will stare at you hardcore while they're dressed in like their coats. And I just don't understand it. Like, my friend always tells me that Italians dress for fashion and not the weather, which I see that now. All these things that I'm saying, I'm not saying all Italians do or it's terrible that Italians do that. It's just such a different culture here than it is back in the States. Okay guys, that was my 10 tips for moving overseas. I really hope that this was educational and informed y'all if you are moving overseas, or if you're just curious, then now you know. If you like my videos, please subscribe, give a thumbs up, and if you are moving overseas, feel free to contact me. Like I said, I'll leave all my socials down below. I will catch y'all in next week's video. Thank you so much for watching. I love all of y'all, and I cannot wait to catch y'all in the next video. Bye!